Welcome back. Last week during the Tucker Carlson interview of Candace Owens, they both expressed views that the Hamas attack on Israel was heartbreaking, but that it was an overseas event that is only emotional to Jews and those with families in Israel. That view is held by too many Americans who don't understand the fundamental truths about Islamic jihad. This is not just about Islamic terror groups like Hamas and their hatred for Jews, but their hatred for Western civilization and goal of conquest. Because to them, there's only one religion, and the rest must be subjugated and or destroyed, which is what 9/11 was all about. For them, there is no compatibility with Judeo-Christian values and principles in our constitutional republic. This view used to be hidden within the carefully protected walls of the mosques, with Owens preaching this to their congregations. Now, it's out in the public, like in NYC. Take a look.
We're done hiding. We're done. We're done being tortured and hurt and judged. This is the correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be upon, of Islam. And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble. Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadan Rasulullah. There is no God worthy of worship except Allah, the God of Jesus, the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, and the God of the last and final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
You heard them. They're done hiding and now openly declaring their jihad on every American home. Is that not a call to violence? What are they planning to do to force Islam into every home? Are they going to go door to door and demand a profession of Islam, or just behead or shoot the non-Muslims? What we do know is the FBI isn't going to investigate the threats. They're obviously too busy covering up Joe Biden's crimes and still rounding up January 6 defendants. Even after FBI Director Wray admitted to terrorists coming across our border, there's no attempt to stop more from coming. And there's no attempt to round up and deport the ones who are already here. Wray says they're being watched. How soon before we all watch Hamas-style attacks in our own neighborhoods? Here to discuss is Brigitte Gabriel, national security analyst, New York Times bestselling author and chairman and actforamerica.org. Her latest bestseller is Rise. Thanks so much for being back with us today, Brigitte. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Delighted to be back with you.
Thanks so much. So, Brigitte, why don't Americans understand this is not just about Hamas hating Jews, that the terrorists are in a war against Western civilization?
The terrorists are at war against Western civilization, and that war did not start with the Hamas and the Israel-Palestinian conflict. It did not start on 9/11, 2001. It started way before then, but America was not connecting the dots. I remember when I started working as news anchor for World News in the Middle East back in 1984, between 1984 and 89, and connecting about world terrorism. This is when we started seeing a true rise of terrorism against Western interest. And as I read the news night after night, Allison, I started realizing there was a pattern developing, because no matter where the terrorist activity took place, the name of the perpetrators were always Islamic. The name of the victims were always Westerners, Christians and Jews. Terry Waite, Terry Anderson, Colonel Higgins, the Achille Lauro, the Pan Am flight, the TWA flight, and I can go on and on. Back then, the world did not connect the dot, and here we are today in 2023, and the world still does not connect the dot, and that's almost 22 years after 9/11. Like you said, our enemy is telling us exactly what they want to do. They are screaming it from the top of their lungs, standing in Times Square in the middle of New York City. Yet the media doesn't want to talk about it. Thank you for speaking about it. But the leftist media, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, all the mainstream media, it's like you're watching the Weather Channel. Total deafening silence.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it is so alarming. It should concern every single American citizen. Yet here we are. So I'm grateful for people like yourself who are willing to talk about it. Brigitte, would you say that Islam is a political ideology with a religious component that is using our religious freedoms against us?
Yes, it is. Islam is a political movement cloaked in religion. And that's why we have a very hard time in the West discussing the topic. Because what are the two things your parents tell you not to talk about at the dinner table? Politics and religion. Because there's no one in conversation with anybody, when you discuss these two topics. So what we are dealing with since 9/11, 2001, at least this is when it affected us directly in the United States, is the radical Islamists who screamed Allahu Akbar as they hijacked airliners, flying them, using them as human missiles, flying them into skyscrapers with the intention of killing millions in the name of their faith, while screaming Allahu Akbar. And we had a very hard time in the United States because on one hand, we wanted to make sure that the Islamic world understands we don't hate you. We love all people. We love Muslims. But we have a problem with people who are screaming Allahu Akbar, who want to kill us. Yet on the other hand, we needed to speak about the enemy because obviously the enemy is radical Islamists who want to kill us in the name of their religion. And we are still dealing with the challenge of bringing ourselves to discuss the truth about the Islamic faith, the Islamic religion, and the radical element within the Islamic faith. Now, not all Muslims are radicals. We both know that. But we have got to be able to discuss the radical minority that is driven by what is written in the Quran, who is calling for our destruction.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is quite the conundrum that should be more openly discussed. It's a shame that it is such a touchy subject. But again, grateful for you spreading awareness on it. Now, obviously, Brigitte, we know our government is completely infiltrated at this point. But how deep would you say the corruption truly runs?
The corruption runs very deep. Actually, it started running deep and the infiltration began. The infiltration by the Islamic radicals into our government started under George Bush. It was actually President George Bush immediately after 9/11 who initiated the Muslim Initiative program, where he decided, well, let's appoint a lot of our Muslims who are living in the United States to help us fight the war on terror. After all, they're Americans. They are on our side. They're going to help us fight the terrorists. What the Bush administration did not understand is a lot of the Islamists that they brought into the government were actually associated with, or their loyalty belonged to, the radical terrorists instead of our government. I mean, look at Imam al-Awlaki, who actually was brought immediately after 9/11 to give a sermon at the Pentagon. So since then, when Obama came to power, Obama really took that program and put it on steroid, on the Federal Express, where we brought in hundreds of Islamists that we do not know anything about their background to work within high sensitive positions within our government. Actually, Allison, when our government went into the Holy Land Foundation trial, which is the largest terrorism trial ever in the history of the United States, where our government handed down 108 guilty verdicts against two Muslim American and Muslim American nonprofits raising money in the United States to send money from America to overseas to support terrorist activity. We had an indictment, like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, was one of the unindicted co-conspirator in that trial. As soon as Obama got elected, his Attorney General, Eric Holder, put the kibosh on handing down the indictment. He forced the police to stop handing out the indictment. Not only did not indict them, but actually rolled out the red carpet for them. Under the Obama administration, the Council for American Islamic Relations had no less than over 300 visits to the White House and meeting with elected officials. So here we are today. This is the result of years of catering to Islamists within our nation without understanding their association, their links, their loyalty, their affiliation, and without doing our due diligence to understand who we are actually bringing into our government.
Yeah, you're right. It is quite incredible and just so astounding that this is happening within the United States of America. So disappointing. Brigitte, Gabriel, we're out of time for today, but thank you so much for weighing in and discussing. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me with you.
Thanks so much.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.